First, welcome, Queen
Thank you.
Afua. Thank you so much for being here. Right. Um, First question I have is: please share with us how your parents influence your ambition and your entrepreneurial spirit.
My parents influenced my ambition and entrepreneurial spirit. It was my father was besides a Garveyite, well versed in cultural African philosophy and purpose. My father, as an entrepreneur, he had his own business, which allowed him to purchase 3 brownstones in Brooklyn. This brownstone where I'm sitting is the last brownstone that he purchased that came from the hospital here. So growing up with him, being independent, he created his own time, his own vision, and he was able to hire others who worked in his business. He was a dental technician, and he serviced the dentists in the community. And I also, as a little girl, worked in his office, just cleaning up and keeping up with him. I loved to be around him because he was a man of wisdom. So the entrepreneur spirit was just natural. And it's how we can reclaim our Africanness, to depend on others outside of ourselves to sustain us is suicide. So that's how I was trained.
And I've noticed in my short life that your surroundings play a big role in what you're able to do. And many people, I'll say who I have met, I know you have some people, but majority of people who are have that entrepreneurial spirit grew up around it. Have you experienced that?
Most people have not grown up around it. That's why I feel I have a great impact to help others to get free. And what I have noticed is that, particularly working with the women, that once they see how it can be done as an example, like my father was my example, and my mother supported my father in the business, so it was family business. And then I grew my business as a family business, health, wellness, the products, the trainings. And when others come to study with me, Sacred Woman, they see it firsthand. How can I also be free, doing what I came on this planet to do, and serving in a way that lifts up and empowers my community? So because I've done so many different aspects of holistic health, natural healing, they can see, so they start making products. That's what I've noticed. They start writing their books. They start to teach from what they've learned, as opposed to having to go get a job and someone pays you. They get a chance to build their business. It takes a lot of strength to be an entrepreneur, focused energy. But if you have at least an example that's close up that you can touch. Many people have volunteered, but I know their volunteer helps them. When they volunteer and work with me, they see clearly how things are done or not done. And I remember one time a student of mine came into my office and I had about 10 binders, color coded with the different trainings. I had one for Sacred Woman, Man Heal Thyself bind. These are all the curriculums. Womb Care Love, Womb Yoga Dance, the detox program. So everything was there. She said, oh, that's how you organize in a certain way. Yes. And I could just pull out the vision, lay it out, and then bring it forward. So just to see someone do that, it can be very inspiring. So I took myself outside of myself and observed how one's life can help others to live their life in a better way.
And I'm very impressed how you've transitioned over the years with the change in technology, because things have changed dramatically from when you started till now, and you've still been able to work at a high pace in the new age digital era. How was that transition for you?
Well, it used to be brick and mortar. I've moved to different places, flood fires, different things happened along the way. So people would always come to where I was, and I was very comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable having wellness centers, community centers based around healing. Then when social media came onto the scene, adjustment had to be made. So my son, Ali Terrain, connected with another young man who worked in our community and was a part of our center, and that was Kazi Roll. And he was learning and growing. That was maybe 10 years ago. And those young minds brought this to me, but I'm the one still had to do the same thing. So whether I'm teaching in a room where there's people or behind the camera or Zoom, it was the same manual, same curriculum, but now it's a different flow. What happened in that flow, though, is that I'm able to reach more people. So that's the positive, that you're not just in the room. In the early days, one would have to come to where I was in order for them to learn. And some stayed for a few months and had to pick up their lives and do that, but very few people can do that. So now my work is in Chicago and Detroit and the UK. I'm on my way to Canada and soon come Jamaica again. So that, before I got there, the work was there.
And how does it make you feel when the young sisters from this generation embrace you and reach out to you?
It feels natural. It feels like that is how it's supposed to be. That if you stay in your work, in your particular field long enough, you become an elder, you become a person of wisdom and knowledge, because the ups and the downs, that's part of the teachings. You learn. If you can get back up and learn from it, then you get stronger. And you get more, you get clearer what is to you and what is not. So when the young women come to me and young men come to me, I have so much to give them because I've had so many life experiences. And I had to overcome quite a bit. So their stories are already my stories. They're my stories, I already lived them. So then I can tell them, these are the pitfalls. This is what you need to look out for. This is what you don't need to do. This is how you have to take care of yourself so you can sustain yourself long enough to be able to manifest your purpose in a big way.
And how do you find that balance of business and self-care? Seems like a fine line.
Well, to me, self-care is my centerpiece. That is one of, I would say, my secrets. That is not a secret. The more I take care of myself, the more I can sustain. The more I take care of myself, the more I can serve. No one wants to come to a sick healer. No one wants to come to a healer who's angry because of life lessons, things happen to them. So that I don't carry grudges. I only carry lessons from every experience. So what lesson did I have to learn? And I ask for the clarity of it. So the next time I now don't have to repeat the cycle, I can end the cycle. And then I can now elevate. So that's part of what has to sustain me.
Please share with our viewers why you don't open your eyes when you first wake. I heard you say that in a previous interview.
I found it interesting that you asked me the question. That's a very intimate question. Well, I don't say that one sleeps. I say and dream so much. I say that we go in, as our ancestors, so we have to go in to come to life. So to rest is to go inside your inner self and to then become to knit. But in that process of traveling within, you're going to get a vision if you're clear enough. If you're vibrant, you'll come back with something great out of those 4, 5, or 6, 8 hours. So before I open up my eyes, I connect to my breath. That's the training. I connect to my breath and I go into gratitude. Gratitude, and I start counting all the things I'm grateful about, because I know the more that you're grateful, the bigger your heart becomes, which is my art. And when your heart becomes big, you become big enough to help a nation. So I listen, I'm listening, I'm being in gratitude. What is the message? What is the lesson? Because in that state of vision, I can hear everything. And then from the vision, then I scribe, I journal, and then I move according to what has channeled through. So that time is between two worlds. It's between being in the world of the vision, getting the treasure, and bringing it into this world, the physicality of it, and then manifesting or manifesting the vision.
Next question I would like to ask you is, please explain, what is a love healing bath? Please explain that one to people listening.
A love healing bath is you use elements from nature to do this bath. One of the elements is the water. Water helps to pull away, to flush, to realign, to harmonize, to attune you. We're made of 75% water. And when we take in and have water surrounding us and water is in us, it helps us bring us into emotional balance, into emotional harmony. It also moves the waters inside of the body to be unleashed through your skin, through your pores. So if the waters are toxic, if you're stressed out, if you're hurting, the waters now are aroused to now move out that are toxic waters, so that the pure waters can now resonate within. So the water is one element. Also working with aromatherapy. Now, everything I'm saying represents our ancestral pathway. I call it African natural lifestyle. So a bath is one of the ways in which an initiate would come to purify. And there would be a bath maybe a city block long. And there would be a sign of the bath, and that sign is Kepera. It's the beetle. It would be right facing the water. So that's hydrotherapy. So that bath is the water. Then our ancestors work with aromatherapy. They would not put the aromatherapy in the bath itself because there'd be others that are coming into that bath. Everybody's in the same oils. There would be a case, and in that case would be all the aromas. Our ancestors brought forth the hydrotherapy as a form of healing and aromatherapy. So one of the most frequent oils would be the lotus oil from Kemet. It comes from the lotus plant, and that would help you to illuminate. Another one would be frankincense and myrrh to help you to purify. So the oils are used to help to energize. So one in their own personal bath could put 5 or 6 drops of frankincense or myrrh to cleanse their thoughts or their actions or what they're attracting. Maybe attracting confusion, stress. So you put that into your bath. Rose oil is a wonderful oil to put in because it just opens up and evokes self-love, self-care, kindness, compassion. It heals the heart. And the lotus oil helps to clear the mind so that your mind becomes like lotus thinking. So that's the oil. And then the candle. Our ancestors work with candles. And the candles help you to light the way. And one of the affirmations you could say in your bath that came from our ancestors is Nuku Nuku Amiku. I am that I am, a shining being dwelling in light. So you have your candle, you have your aromatherapy, you have your water, and then they put in salts into the water. It says if you're going to the ocean, you go straight to the ocean for an ocean bath. Same thing. And that salt in the water helps to pull the congestion and the blockages out of the skin. And that's your spiritual bath. And then put your intentions. What are your intentions? What do you want to know about yourself? Or what do you want to learn? Or what do you want to forgive or let go of? That's spiritual bath. And then what are you going to do to love on yourself and commit yourself to yourself? So that may be taking healthier foods. That's how you're going to demonstrate your love. Having compassion for yourself, not beating yourself up psychologically for what you didn't do. So these are just some things you can begin to do and just put yourself number one. That's love.
People speak about affirmations all the time, right? What advice would you give to someone to create an affirmation for themselves?
Affirmations, it's when you look at the glyphs on the walls of Kemet, they're glyphs, and it's the language is Metunter is the language of the divine. So when you affirm, you're taking the glyph that's inside of you, the message, and you bring it to the forefront. And what you need is already in you. We came in this world with everything in us. It's just to learn how to bring it out. So now you look at your affirmation is, what do you need? You say, I need love. So then say, I am love. I am myrrh. I need prosperity. Then say, I am prosperous. Even if you don't feel you are, if you say it, you're evoking it, that is an affirmation that bring it to you. Just like if you said, I'm not good enough, that's an affirmation of negativity. I'll never be prosperous. People don't get along with me. I don't get along with people. Those are affirmations that can make you sick. Or you can choose to have affirmations to help you to get well. And that's the spirit of our ancestors would have, of the guardians, indwelling guardians. That's Tahuti. Tahuti is the word. And when you speak the word, then you become what you say, according to our ancestors. So on the walls for the women, for example, there's a prayer to remind us as Black women, African women, for the Nile Valley women, who we are. We are the women who lighten the darkness. We have come to lighten the darkness. It is lightened. We have overcome the destroyers. We are there for those who weep, who hide their faces, who sunk down. They looked upon us then. We are the women. We are the healers. to have that as an affirmation that you know who you are, that's what sacred women are.
Powerful thing. And I wanted to jump back. You spoke about attracting stress, but you also spoke about attracting confusion. Please speak on that in regards to some people seem to like confusion, right?
They
And
like confusion.
they seem to attract a lot of confusion. Why is that the cause?
Because we're not listening. That's what it is. I wrote a book called Impeccable Listening. And impeccable listening is breath by breath and moment by moment. Wow. Maturity gives you this extra gift of life. That's what is given to me. When I think back on my life, there's points when I listened completely to the divine that's indwelling. That's we call God, Odumare, Jah, Jehovah, in turn. And when I listened impeccably, when the Most High in me said, go, and I held back, I missed it. Or the Most High said, let go, and I held on. And then I said, wow. It's always a regret when you don't listen. So what life has given to me is listen, even if it's scary, even if you don't understand why, but when you get that innate, that intuitive spirit is speaking through you, which is the Most High nature, listen impeccably. And then you will see the wisdom of it in time until you become one with it. And then you start, oh, I understand why I shouldn't do this and why I should do that. Now the other part is, it's 3 stages. Is you have to ask, because if you ask, you're going to hear it. You may not be ready for it. That's why we suffer, because we're not quite ready to make the shift. Then listen, you hear it. The final one that people really mess up with is now act. It is to act from what you just heard. But you said, and we'll say something like, oh, does it make any sense? I don't have those questions anymore. When I hear it now, I take the breath of life when I hear it so that I can have the courage to speak it, and it is so. Period. Then we'll suffer. That's why we're suffering. We're not in tune.
I hear you always speak about the sacred woman. Please explain for those listening who are unaware of your work what you mean by the sacred woman.
Sacred woman. Sacred means divine. Sacred means to be one with the divine, and all its many names. Sacredness is to be in alignment with your higher self. To be a woman is to be a healer. So the goal of sacred and woman is to wake up, in terms of the rites of passage that I teach, is to come into the alignment as yourself as healer. Yourself as healer of yourself. That's empowerment. That is edification. That is your culture. And to be confident once you learn the steps, the stages, the gateways of sacred woman, then you're able to not only heal yourself, but your loved ones, your family, your community. Thousands and thousands of women have gone through and have taken on the title and the work and the lifestyle of sacred woman. And that has helped to empower a nation of us. We're rising up out of not knowing to knowing, out of sickness into wellness, out of destruction into productivity, out of lack and limitation to abundance. So there is a growing, the sacredness gives you everything that you need because you're in alignment with that divine essence that's already in there, active and ready to be worked with once you tune in. There's another book called Sacred Woman. This European male wrote the book. I don't know what he's talking about, but I know what I'm dealing with. This is a resurrection for Black women. This is our culture. When we were stolen as a people, our culture, our traditions, our medicine, our language, our pathway, everything that made us whole was stolen, and it was separated, divided. And then we were put on plantations, and we were beaten and raped and everything that abomination upon us. And that went for over 8 generations. And that poisoned us. So to take the sacred rites of passage is to not claim plantation life as the life that we lived. We lived through it, but there is a life before that when we were the royal ones, the whole ones, the example for not even a person, but for humanity. And that name of that is Ma'at. There was a nation of Ma'at. And the principle, the most centered piece of that is Ma'at. Represents balance, truth, righteousness, reciprocity. And that came as a form of the feminine principle. And she had a black spirit, and she had wings. And she represents the first one we call an angel in Christianity. She was an angel because she had wings. And our path is the oldest spiritual path. We weren't religious, because to be religious is to separate. We were spiritual beings connected to source and being moved from that place of source and power. So the wings were there. And then she had a feather on her crown. And that is the balance of her thoughts. Holistic health actually is African natural lifestyle. And she's the embodiment of all of that. She encased that. Ma'at was over a whole nation. And from her, the 42 laws of Ma'at came into being. And which is in Christianity, the 10 Commandments came out of that. So we were the first to bring forth spirituality, to bring forth holistic health. When I was channeling the book Sacred Woman, it was a 7-year journey. And I want to give Zanon Grasa Mase Pata. We were together for 19 years. And he was the historical advisor of the book, of the work. And in those 19 years, I really was always into African spirituality. As a teenager, I started young. And I'm living a mature life, so I've been here. Probably one of the oldest living healers that exist, which is quite interesting, because I feel like I'm about 30 years old in my body, so that's supernatural in itself. And when you live a holistic natural lifestyle, African natural lifestyle, then you're given supernatural powers. That I know for sure. So I just want to share with this because I want us to feel this is all, holistic health is not European philosophy. I know we're going to them to study many times, to go outside of our culture, but it's all ours. I'm gonna say African natural lifestyle for everything. Would you do that with me? Just say African natural lifestyle?
African natural lifestyle.
Reiki.
African natural lifestyle.
Massage therapy.
African natural lifestyle.
Reflexology.
African natural lifestyle.
Astrology.
African natural lifestyle.
Hydrotherapy.
African natural lifestyle.
Aromatherapy.
African natural lifestyle.
Polarity.
African natural lifestyle.
Sacred word.
African natural lifestyle.
Yoga.
African natural lifestyle.
Meditation.
African natural lifestyle.
Journaling.
African natural lifestyle.
Energy work.
African natural lifestyle.
It's all African natural lifestyle. Case closed. And our men, when they know that, wait, you mean that's minds. It makes you want to go deeper into your culture, not to be afraid of, because we were told to be afraid of our culture. And when you're afraid of your own culture, it's like a tree with no roots, and you will die eventually. And that's what's happening. We're getting sicker and sicker.
I wanted to jump back to the early days because you guys were in a time where when you started practicing African natural healing, African culture, what were your peers saying? Because I know it was kind of anti-African vibe. It was a pro-black vibe, but it seemed almost like a anti-African culture vibe during that time, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. Well, what helped is that most people are sick. And when you're real sick, you don't care what to get out the pain body. So I didn't have to tell them it's African natural lifestyle. I just had to give them the herbs, which is our culture. That is how come you can get a grandmother or grandfather talk to the bushes, talk to the trees, and know what plants. There was no back to Eden then. It was stolen and brought here, but it was innately, we knew the medicine of nature. We knew how to work with the rain. We had to work with the water. We had to work with the plants. So when one is in pain and there's no way out, and they've tried everything allopathically, medically, they will say, what is that? They're not concerned. Here's the clay, or here's the bath, or here's the self-massage, here's the aromatherapy. These are ways, here's the food, it's plant-based lifestyle. So that is how I was able to bring it to my community. And so at least 2 decades, I didn't talk as much about the culture. I took it on. I mean, I did African dance. I had a dance company, an African dance company at age 15. So I heard the drums right from this house. I remember having dinner, and I heard my mother had prepared a normal dinner, meat-eating dinner, the time, and I heard these drums. And I was looking in the room. I ran out the house. I just left the food, ran out the house, it was in the park across the street. And I was spellbound when I heard these drums playing. Oh my goodness. I felt my culture just coming up out of me. So I would see, and in the 60s, I woke up in 1969, and I woke up to a song played 2 blocks away from here. I think that's why you had to come here. I think you had to come to this house, because this house, Stevie Wonder played on that piano. You know, Erykah Badu upstairs, stayed with us quite a bit, and Carmen, and just so many wonderful people over the years. In our community, they came. This was the places where they came, Park Place, So I went somewhere else, but the point is, we did not embrace our culture. But over time, people started to appreciate the fact that I loved them so much. I would share, period. And I shared with workshops, classes, seminar. If I went to the bank, someone said, Queen, what do I do about this? If I'm walking down the street, Queen, what do I do about that? So I was so dedicated. They saw me clearly who I was. They would like, oh, she's taking Queen. Well, what is that supposed to mean? Or she dresses culturally. I'm not sure if I want to, but I kept going no matter what they did, and I would always have answers. You have diabetes, high blood pressure, stress, anxiety, obesity, arthritis, womb issues. I had answers because it all came from our culture, and I would give it to them. I would never force anyone to take on what I was teaching. I would offer it and say, this is yours. And, after decades, people have faith in me.
One thing I want to ask, why are the drums so powerful? I always hear people
It's the heartbeat. The drum is the heart. And as again, the anatomy on a spiritual level, cosmic level, it's ma'at. And the heart is, the glyph for the heart is a scale. So on one side of the scale is your heart, and the other side is a feather. A whole nation is based on the heart and the feather. And the drum represents the heartbeat. So if you lose your heartbeat, that's a stroke, that's a heart attack, that's death or life. So when we hear the drum, that sound reminds us, it's in our DNA. It brings us back to our beginnings, and our heart can be healed from the sound of a drum.
Do you believe overeating is caused by food addiction, or is it a person's distorted search for nurture and comfort?
Well, they call it, there's a term for it, comfort. Junk food, fried foods, potato salad with eggs in it and mayonnaise, a sweet potato pie with eggs and sugar. It's comfort. Ice cream could be considered comfort. It soothes you, but it's an addictive quality. So it doesn't really soothe you. It's just a moment of relief before it drops in the body and you become what the food really is doing. It's not giving you comfort. The food is actually causing you stress and anxiety and hurt and anger and depression. And so it's dangerous. It's dangerous to go that route for comfort. when you can go the route of nature and eat just the opposite, eat the foods that support the nature, support the mind, that support the emotions. And that's green, plant-based, primarily a green lifestyle. Chlorophyllon is a term that my son brought forth. Not so much vegetarian or not so much vegan, but green chlorophyll foods. And if you eat the white bread, the white rice, it causes you to tilt over to the adversities and to the struggle and to the lack and to the hurt. Most people are taking painkillers, and that's to numb them out. But what it does is it keeps you in a cycle of more pain and more drugs and more going down until people become manic depressed, to become violent. Just in a household, we checked what's in our homes. We would understand why there's abuse in the home.
Yeah, I experienced that personally in regards to changing my eating habits, and I can feel the difference not only in my body, in my mind, and my temperament. I think when I eat sugary foods, I feel jittery. It can be like a nervous vibe.
Because it's a drug. And sugar is a drug. It's a few molecules away from crack and cocaine. You can just look it up, Google it. It's only a few molecules away from crack and cocaine. And it's so harmful because everybody's doing it. It feels normal. It is normal, but it's not optimal. And it tastes so good, but it hurts so bad. And you can take your sweets in a more natural form, fruits. Get into your mangoes, your papaya, your pineapples, your cherries. It's delicious when it's organic, though. I mean, I had a cantaloupe today, and I said, well, they just was injected. What did they put in the soil? It's nothing. You can feel the depth in it. There is no watermelon without seeds is an insult to nature and to our nature. When you don't see black seeds in it, it's death. And they're taking the seeds out of everything now, the lemons, the limes, the oranges. They haven't gotten to the cherries. They haven't gotten to the cantaloupe with the seeds out, but they're trying to make it where we are prisoners in the food world, and that we can be stocked. When you cannot plant your food and you don't have an option to plant your food, you're in trouble. So seedless foods means that the food has gone through literally an abortion. There's a hysterectomy. There's no life in it. It's man-made. It's not Most High made. We really in a state of an emergency with our food. It's being engineered, made in laboratories. And if the food can stay on the shelf for months, sometimes you go into our community stores that call food deserts. That means you don't have life-giving food there. Some fried food, some fast food chains and all that. So once the food can sit on the shelf for months and years, and some of you go into some places and there's dust on and what are we eating? It's not real food. Food only lasts for a certain period of time. Once you pick it, it lasts for a week. So what are we really taking in? That's why there's so much inflammation and premature aging and early death and violence and depression. People are in this realm is that the norm is to be sick. The norm is not to be well. To be well, what? How did you get well? How did you escape? So I don't eat most vegetarians. I don't eat what most vegetarians eat. We eat a lot of starch. The term is starchitarian. We eat a lot of starch, and then it starches our knees, and so we can't walk after a certain, or we are limping because there's no flow in the legs. Or our kidneys are starting to fail because they cannot process the food because there's all this inflammation on our kidneys, our liver. So our bodies are decaying because it's a lot of non-real food.
How bad is fried food?
Well, fried foods is oil unfried is the best oil. Cold pressed is the best oil because it's pressed out of the olive. Once you put the heat to it, it becomes carcinogenic. So you have to be very careful. So a lot of stir fry. So if you're going to do a stir fry, you have to take lime water with it, half an hour before or after. because it's something that people do because they want to keep the same habits and bring it over. So that's I call that's the transition, because at least it's vegetables, and it's not a meat you're stir frying, or you're frying meat or frying fish or frying chicken. Now that's a sure way to shorten your lifespan. But you're now coming to a little higher level. You stir frying your vegetables, so you have to take your water to cut it. Otherwise, the artery to the brain becomes short-circuited, so you have brain fog. Or the artery to the ear, you can't hear as well. Or to the heart, the heart is getting weak and you cannot move quickly. You know, you become really tired very quickly. To the legs, you start to get elephant legs, swelling in the legs, edema. And that's from the arteries being clogged up with fried foods or meat, which has a lot of fat in it.
What does the lemon water do?
The lime water, what it does is it breaks up the fat. It breaks up the fat that's coming from frying, because it sits in the body as a film. So to look at this as an artery, right? And that grease sits in there, it just sits. So you try to bring nourishment in, the nourishment can't even get through because it's so thick. So it can't break through. So that means if that artery is to the heart, that's why your heart can miss a beat. Or all of a sudden somebody had a sudden death because the heart is not getting any nourishment or oxygen, because that plaque, it keeps building up until it becomes thick. And if that plaque becomes so thick the blood can't flow through, that's when you start having pain.
Please explain how a toxic lifestyle and toxic relationship negatively impacts the health of a woman's vagina.
Well, toxic relationship. A woman is a sieve. Her body is open, it's an open vessel. So depending on the mate, how he's thinking, if he's angry, if he's hostile, if he's disappointed, if he's abusive, if he's eating dead foods, processed foods, all that, if he's taking alcohol, drugs, over the counter, prescribed, or from the street, he's the embodiment of all of that. When a woman opens up her womb, which is really her heart, and her womb reflects, whatever the man is thinking, feeling, eating, is going to be injected into her. She's going to become that. Now, she's already that before he came. So it's not like he's something wrong with him and then she's great. She had a frequency that brought them together. What happens if she already has that frequency of lack and hurt and disappointment, she's going to attract someone on the same level. But what happens is magnified when they come together. Because she's a sieve and she receives, she is going to get sick. He's going to feel better because he's going to release the anger and the pain. Now, he's not going to change his diet, so he's going to keep getting sick again. He's not changing his mind. He's not changing his lifestyle. He's not forgiving his parents. He hasn't done any emotional healing, so he's going to continue on that pathway. But she also, so now she's not only carrying her issues, she's carrying his issues. It's magnified, so that's where the tumors and the fibroids and the long menstrual flow is happening, and that can lead to a hysterectomy. So it's very important to clean yourself up as a woman, first and foremost. Start your lifestyle. Come into the second rites of passage. Come and do a 21-day detox and move into a holistic lifestyle. You're going to set your home as a wellness home. And then you'll attract a mate on a higher level because he's yourself. You're going to attract yourself to yourself. And that is what causes our sickness. It's a compounding of dis-ease living.
So,
or dying.
Can you please speak on how detrimental it is? We live in a culture now where promiscuity is the norm and it's praised. But people, when they think about having numerous sexual mates, the only negative they think about is getting pregnant and STD. But they don't think about the spiritual exposure they open themselves to. So can you delve into that more? You just spoke on it, but could you delve into how detrimental it is having numerous mates?
Okay, we're going to put over here the children. But that's why we have so many households with a single parent household. Because ultimately, what's going to end up happening if you're not in harmony, if you're not healthy enough to bring to yourself your highest good in a human form, then what you're going to bring is isfit, sickness, divisiveness, woundedness. And some women won't even go, if they get pregnant, before they even have the baby, they're already separated, because they did not do it in a highest frequency. Do you know who he really is? Is he well? Are you well? First, it always starts with self. So women have to heal, and men have to heal. That's where the rites of passage comes in. Without that, we're just going to keep colliding and bumping and hurting each other. So the first thing is to heal. And I've observed it over and over again. The women heal, then their mates are looking at them strange because you're different. You speak different because you're not yelling, you're not going off, you're not cursing anymore. Your aroma of your body doesn't have the aroma of flesh, toxicity, acidity. How you handle stresses, you're not doing all of what you used to do. So your temperament changes. And if your mate's temperament doesn't change, either you're going to separate, or you're going to be in the house and you're going to be two separate locations in the house. So the women kept asking me, well, do you have anything for the men? And so that's when we created Man Heal Thyself Wellness Warrior Training. And then that became the answer to have healthy relationships. And so the men who take that on for sacred women, their relationships are like golden. It works. Because you have two healed people now communicating. And that creates such a level of peace and harmony. The reason why women are going from bed to bed, or men going from bed to bed because they're unhappy, it's not that they're happy, and they're looking for something they could never get. You're never going to get peace. You're going to get more frustrated. You're going to want more of it because you think that if I eat more food until you gorge yourself, I have more sex until you gorge yourself and you're losing yourself. And then when one interjects their mind and their heart and their lifestyle into you, then you go to someone else next week and you got 4 or 5 people in your body, you're going crazy. You're depressed, you're anxious, you're suicidal. You're confused. So you have to clear the house.
And also what I've observed also is that you don't gain the skills to be in a long-term relationship because you've been bouncing around so much. Mm-hmm. You don't gain the skills to be in a long-term relationship because you've been bouncing around so much.
Well, taking Sacred Women, we have teachers that come in and who have long-term relationships, and they give the skills. The work is a community work. It's not an individual. It's not even me. It is all those relationships that I know if they hear from this person who's an entrepreneur, or this person who manages money well and can make money grow, we bring that person in. This person who can get property and land, that person. The person who can make your garments, who can come from our community. Everything we need is in the circle. That's I always say that. And it's supposed to be that way. It's in the village. And the more that we can unify. I'm doing something right now that is another movement. I create movements. So movements created through me, I just share them. And it's called the City of Wellness, Women's Wellness Power Walk. And the City of Wellness, Wellness Warrior Power Run. We just launched it here in Brooklyn, and all the boroughs came. It was about 30 of us. And it's growing, and next week it's going to be Indianapolis, this coming up. And then the next week's going to be Atlanta, Georgia. And this weekend it's going to be in Montreal, Canada. And is going to go from different cities are going to be inspired to start to walk. This walk was inspired by the many walks. The walk in Washington with Martin Luther King. I was 9 years old. My parents took me to Washington from Brooklyn. And I remember I had my patent leather shoes in the middle, I'm in the mud. It was raining. And there's a million people out there, and I had these umbrellas over me. They were towering over my parents. And and I reflect, I said, I was in the middle of history. And then, of course, the Million Man March with Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for the Million Men who came, because I sent my sons. I didn't go, but I sent my son. And Bob Law, who was one of the leaders in bringing together the boroughs. He brought 15 buses. He's also, I call my spiritual godfather. And that was a very important march, that we could come together. Now, what did we do out of it? I'm not quite sure, but we brought us together. And we need a stronger plan and an accountability process to actually blossom from it. Because to get 1 million men together, that's money, that's prosperity, that's businesses. It's like people in their own doing their own inspirational thing, but I think that there needs to be more planning. So when you bring them together, what are we trying to do here? Is it food, clothing, and shelter? Is it land? Is it become our own medicine? Like, I know my plan is to create, this is it, that there be a healer in every family. Whoever takes my study, they become the healer of their family. They know exactly what to do for all the different issues in their family. Diabetes, high blood pressure, stress, anxiety. And also, the part 2 of it is to create a wellness center in every home. So the kitchen is your pharmacy, it's your healing laboratory, from soup to salad to juices to herb teas. Your bathroom is no longer a bathroom, it's a hydrotherapy room. So you can wash away your stress. You don't have to take drugs, alcohol to numb yourself out. You can be free of that. Someone close to us asked my daughter the other day, so you didn't have any vices? She said, you didn't take any drugs or any, you didn't drink? What? She says, no. She said, I took sugar sometimes. That was a vice, and it made me angry. I was upset. So the house becomes a wellness home, which means you get independence, holistic independence, but you don't have to go outside when you get sick. Your family doesn't have to go outside, and maybe you'll come back with one less organ. So it's in the house, and healing is in the house. Then you don't have broken homes. You don't have children who are from single-parent households. So much families can now stay together because they've taken the rites of passage. They have the tools that they need, so it keeps the family together. And in that family, there is entrepreneurs. So we're creating our own businesses. So for me, that's how I am looking at the plan. So now this walk is actually to help to secure these lifestyle shifts that we've all made in our community.
And listening to you talk, I think there's a generation gap, because from your generation, you guys have a collective approach. Our generation is very selfish. They don't have a group idea when they do things. It seems to be all about them. But when I hear people from your generation talk, it's always about the collective and the benefit of not just you, others, but the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why we have to work together, because this generation, they know how to make money. Mm-hmm. They become one-pointed. Money, money, money. That's the left side of their brain. Our side was more right side. That is the intuitive, that's the spiritual, that's the laws of nature. Those two have to come together, that brain. So I'm from, it's Ast, the Great Mother, the feminine principle, and it's the Sar, the masculine principle, the left-right hemisphere of the brain. Well, you could bring those two hemispheres together, you have a whole being, and then I can relate to young people, which I do, right? And I can relate to elder people, which I do. I relate to both sides of the spectrum. That's what's going to give us sustainability. Because the young people, they don't have the wisdom. They're going to go into some places. They like, how did I get here? How did I get so depressed? We were not as so depressed. We was being shot at. Everything was happening to us, but we was getting depressed. We was getting things done, period. But now we have all this money and there's a lot of depression and a lot of medication.
Why is that? Like, why is it that a person who experiences more trauma has less depression than a person who experiences less trauma?
Well, it's both. I mean, because you can have less and you be still traumatized because you don't have enough to take and sustain your family. So that's very stressful. And then you can have all the material things, but because your lifestyle is so toxic, that's very stressful. So it's like to take the whole point of holistic health, African natural lifestyle, is become a whole being. You're made of body, so you have to heal the body, work with the transformation of the body consistently every day. It's a lifestyle of wellness. Take it on as a lifestyle, not an event. I'm going to do this, and now once I'm better, I'm going to go back to my old habits. You come through the door, and you don't even go straight. You do this, like a plane. You continue to elevate. I call it the ascension. We're about to have our ascension in Atlanta, Georgia. Everybody's welcome to attend. It's something spectacular. You get to see 100 women who are healthy, whole, vibrant, supportive, radiant, tell their stories from death to resurrection. It is a phenomenon to bear witness. These are women who've gone through rites of passage. And our men, wellness warriors, they have also gone through their rites of passage with Supernova, Islam, and Hallelujah Wilcox. So when you see this, you say, wow, there's hope. That's what this is. There's a pathway, a way out of our dismay.
All right, many people are struggling to cope in the stressful environment in which they live, right? You always preach the importance of keeping a positive outlook and keeping a smile on your heart. What advice would you give to listeners who are struggling with stress and anxiety?
Start somewhere. Don't feel like you have to change your whole life, because that can cause you stress. Sometimes I'll do a consultation and I'll lay out everything they need to do, and it causes them stress just to hear. No,
I said it's overwhelming.
They're overwhelmed, so that could cause stress. So I would say, take one or two things that you know, I can do that. That's called like low-hanging fruit. You know what I can do? I can journal. I can write what I want. I can think about it. I can contemplate. So just write down. That's the journaling. Someone else will say, you know what? I can have a green juice every day. The juice bar is not far from where I work. I don't have a juicer. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to make the juice. If I make juice, I'm not going to clean a juicer. So let me just go get a green juice every day, because that's that will calm the blood, detox the blood, lower the blood pressure. Someone else who's into herbs might want to take herbs to de-stress, some chamomile or hops or with betony, and make a compound of that to de-stress them. Somebody said, I don't want to do herbs, but I'll take a vitamin. I'll take a B complex, 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams, 2 or 3 times for the day. Start somewhere. What happens is one good habit creates another good habit. Next thing you know, do it, just start building. And after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you move into a new lifestyle. Or eliminate some things. You can do it that way. So you know what? This week I'm going to eliminate one thing a week. But once you let it go, then try to keep it away. And so say this week I'm going to let go of sugar. That might be hard for some people. For some people it might be easier, because I can have my watermelon, my cantaloupe, my honeydew melons, my papaya, my mangoes. So that might be the way to go. Some would say, I'm going to drink more water, because I'm made up of 75% water. So I'm start to flush and just drink a lot of water. And maybe at the beginning of the day, I'll put 2 limes in it and to cut up the plaque. At the end of the day, I'll do that again. So find just a few things that you can do. You can, even the way, I've written 7 books on healing. They can just don't try to buy all the books at one time, maybe just buy one book. Maybe start with Heal Thyself. That's a wonderful way to begin. That was written 35 years ago. And then some women are going into Sacred Woman, but they're not ready. They need a rites of passage, because they need some hand holding, some support around them with other women living the same lifestyle. So I would say, come into community. however you come to community. Come do a power walk with us, or come do a soul sweat with us, or come with the rites of passage. You know,
How do women find that don't have access to you in your community, right? How do women find community in their neighborhoods? That seems to be a problem for a lot of people. Finding a support system in their close environment.
hmm well, one of the things for women, this it's been a wellspring of women's circles, women overcoming breast cancer, women who are raising their children and want support, women who are breastfeeding, women who want womb wellness. So it's there. You can Google it. It is a circle everywhere. I was one of those who started the circles in the 70s. I started early on, self-care circles, and it just grew over the years. So there's circles everywhere. Once you say yes, I'm ready, the teacher will appear in whatever form that may look like. And it's just as for the women as for the men. Once you say yes, this is what I need to heal, and I can't do it by myself. You might have read the books, you might have taken a class, you might have done some online work, but you actually need people contact. You need your community. As they say now, you need your tribe. And once you get to your tribe, you feel like, oh, I can do this. But don't think your tribe's gonna be perfect. Like, you're gonna find problems because the tribes come together so they can resolve things. You're gonna find some problems, but don't you become a problem to your own self, because we came all together to heal anyway. Yeah.
Do you feel everyone has the ability to heal themselves?
Absolutely. Everyone has the ability to heal themselves. There's an affirmation that my 3-year-old granddaughter inspired. I was inspired from our moment together. For some reason, lunch was being made in our house, and my daughter got upset about, well, why didn't you give her, my granddaughter, her niece, this food or what have you? And it was an argument between brother and sister. And then my granddaughter shut down. She drew all the way in. So I took a walk, and I walked over to our center that was on Kingston Avenue. I sat down with her in a little cross position, and I had her open up her palms in the meditation. And I just said, go in, pray. I prayed with her, I visualized with her. And then I asked her, after doing some breathing, how do you feel? And she said, I feel powerful. A 3-year-old tell you that had impact. And from that point, you know what I said? That was like 60 years ago. Every day I tell my clients, the power to heal is within us. And we have the mighty power to heal ourselves. So say it, walk in it, and know it, that you can. In fact, once you speak it into existence, Tahuti, now you can create it. Your wellness, body, mind, spiritually, economically, and in all your relations.
Please break down why anger and resentment is so destructive to the mind, body, and spirit.
The body works as a unit. We try to separate and feel, okay, if someone it becomes fitness, they become fitness focused, but emotionally, they don't know how to communicate with people. They stay isolated, but they go to the gym. But they don't communicate with anyone in the gym. They just get on the treadmill, they pump the iron, do the workout, but there's no social, there's no heart, it's body. Then someone else will just use their mind for everything. They don't feel anything. They're just thinking everything. Then they don't have it, the love is not there. So people are not drawn to it because there's no love. So that's body, that's mind, spirit. One may be very adept in prayers and meditation, affirmations and journaling, stillness, but their bodies are weak and broken. They're in pain, but they're very much into their prayers. The goal is that you bring it all together as one mighty force. You bring together the body, and you do the work to heal the body, the workout, the yoga, the walking, the biking, the mountain climbing, the martial arts. Find your movement that moves well for you. The mind, study, read, converse with others, challenge yourself to grow your mind, your thinking, expand, There's always a way out. This is the era of the creatives. The creatives say that there's a way out, a way through, a way around, a way in. There's no limitation when you're a strong creative because you've tapped into that spirit of the Most High. So there's the mind, that's the heart. Self-love. So the physical, you're taking care of with the workout. The mind, you're growing, expanding your mind. And then your heart, self-love, self-care. And don't wait for anyone else to love you and to be kind to you. If they're not kind to you, not loving, it's because you haven't been nice and kind to yourself. Because people only give you who you are or who you allow. You know, that you allow certain things to happen, so it keeps happening until you said, I'm gonna love myself enough to stand up for myself and to speak out. This does not serve me. This is not right for me. And I'm gonna end this cycle. So that all of that together can help you become a whole being. And your wholeness can now spread. Just like disease spreads, wellness also spreads into whole beings.
I would like you to speak about the importance of people forgiving their parents. And also I heard you speak about the need for mothers and fathers to be humble. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the importance of people forgiving. It seems like to be the trend right now. People want to be angry at their parents and blame their parents for everything. Please speak about the importance of forgiving your parents.
Well, everything is what goes around comes around. As above, so below. If you want to end the cycle, just generational trauma, then you next look at your parents with new eyes. Who were they at 18 or 20 or 24 or 25? They were younger minds, less information than if they were in their 30s, 40s, 50s or up. So they had some limitations. So they look at them as human beings with limitations, just as you have some limitations yourself. And then that's when the compassion can kick in. Now you have children. If you have done everything you could for your children, if you did not know how to forgive your parents, this will happen. You'll say, I did this for you, I did that for you, why are you complaining? And they're gonna say, yeah, you did this and you did that. You gave me a place to live, you had food, you got me to school, but that event that I need you to come to support me, you never have time. You're always working. Miss, I was working so I could take care of you, but I needed you to have time for me. What about me? Then they're mad. So the level of your compassion, check yourself at the door. Go back to your parents and say, thank you. Sometimes they say, thank you for just sending me to my grandmother to raise me because they didn't have the wherewithal emotionally or psychologically. They had to give it to somebody who could do better than they could possibly do. And sometimes they had to grow up, and when they become older, they may be looking for you, they have been looking for you. Because so many of our young people that come to me have been adopted. And I said, wow, that's something else. So their parents really couldn't even get to the first level. They was that broken. And so for those young people who had someone who adopted them, that means they were chosen. And someone wanted to take care. Because most people conceived just because they had sex, not because they were planning. And they just love their child or not love their child and take care of them or not take care of them. It's happenstance. But when someone's looking for a child, they're usually looking to be of service and to support that being to grow up. So we're in this world, and then when you hold that animosity to your parents, you're going to marry your parents. That man that you're upset with your father, you're mad with him about him, you're going to have a husband that's going to be just like your father on some level. He won't be emotionally accessible. Maybe your father wasn't there. He was going through his own financial struggle because there's a price tag on men. Fatherhood is not just the finance that you have, but it's also the wisdom that you may impart on your children, or an example of compassion or helping in the home, or whatever that level is. A man is not just a price tag, So if the father can't be in the home because he feels like he's not worth it because he doesn't have it like that, the child will be without a parent, and they won't be whole. So they're always looking for their father. And a lot of men, they go from one man to the next, always looking for their father and never getting peace. Or the woman may be angry at her mother, and she's angry at her mother, so she attracts friends that are the same as her mother. It's important that we know that it takes a village, literally, to raise a human being, not just a child. The mother, out of 100% of giving to a soul to grow, the mother may have 40% that she's supposed to give. And the father has maybe his 35% that he's supposed to give. And then your best friend next door neighbor, a friend who's in your family, comes in and out of your home and cares for your family, that neighbor may give 10%, just watching over you and, give you some advice as you walk in the world. And maybe there's a grandmother that gives you that 20% of strong roots, or that grandfather. It's taken a whole village to participate in raising a being, a soul. So if the mother now doesn't have that other 40, 50, or 60% to help you, then she becomes overloaded, and she's not a great parent. She cannot grow you. She cannot parent you in the right way. So the rites of passage to me is a solution. Bringing them together, allowing other feminists. When the women, that's why women love Sacred Woman. It's because there's such a community of women. Sometimes the woman becomes like an auntie in the spirit, or a best friend, someone you can confide in. She can grow you, you can grow her. Sometimes it's just coming as a mother because your mother made a transition. I remember a dear friend of mine, she's taking care of my mother. My mother's 99 years old. She's going to make it to 100. And her name is Wahida. 35 years ago, in that sister-to-sister circle that I gave, Queen Afua was a part of that, my dear friend, she said her mother had just passed, and she said it in a class, I want to die because my mother just passed, because my mother was my best friend. And I said to her, Wahida, I'll share my mother with you. And she said, oh. Next thing I know, Wahida's at the house in my mother's old school pajamas, and they sit in the bed looking at pictures of family. It was real. It wasn't pretend. It was real. And that's how we can be for each other. We can fill in the gap. So it's not being angry at your mother for, she was only to do a portion. And sometimes you have to have a best friend steps in as a spiritual uncle. That's the beauty of extended family. We have a community, we have a village of us. And so if we activate our village, then no one will be angry at the mother, nor angry at the father. You just understand that they fell. They had an issue. They were challenged, just like you may be.
Have you working with people, because usually publicly we hear more complaints about the father issue, but we don't hear a lot about the mother issue with women. And I've come to learn that women have a lot of issues with their mothers.
Oh, yeah.
So when you work with people, what is the main issues women have with their mother that causes so much hurt, and how do they heal from it?
The mother's talking at them. The mother's not talking with them. The mother is not respecting, maybe the daughter has something to teach. Sometimes your children become your teachers. And I think that is the reason why I get along well with young people. Because I know that they came to teach also. But if you're an older person, you're always the one telling them what to do. So if you've always been, because you've been raising them to young babies, teenagers, so you've always have been telling them. It's a shift as you get older and they grow up. And that's now, you have to learn from them too. And if you have that mutual respect, if you can grow that mutual respect, then there could be more harmony. I think that's what it is. And then we also keep recycling what happened when our mother was unconscious. When she maybe had a few boyfriends and some of them were not nice to the daughter. Or sometimes there's some touching of the daughters. So the daughters are upset on different levels. And then the mother, she's a single parent, she's out of the house a lot. So they didn't get that nurturing necessary from their mother. But that's why you go into extended family. I have my best friends. They help to raise my children too. So my children would call my auntie. You know, my best friend, Queen Esther, her daughter says, Auntie. And hallelujah, Jolly and hallelujah say auntie to me. And same thing with my children. It's the same. They call her auntie. And she's not my blood sister. And see, those are things, those are relationships that can help us to mend us so we don't have to be angry at a person because we have a community. That's why I always had a community center, because the community center allows for that interaction, which is, we don't get that from looking at from a camera, but if we can get some of it can heal us.
Can you tell us how you met Dr. Aris, how he mentored you on your journey and your friendship with him?
Okay. Well, I have been a healer for 53 years. So I think I've been here longer than all healers, basically, who are living. So he came to this same house, right in Park Place. And we didn't exchange. It wasn't a mentor, we didn't exchange. He brought live food into the community, 100% live food. Because to be a vegetarian, I was vegetarian all those years. I was always eating live food, sun-cooked foods cooked by nature. But I also did some steaming, and not baking, but steam foods. So he was 100% raw. So he was doing a workshop with his wife and himself at that time. And he was making these pies, these delicious live pies. And I said, well, let's do a barter. I don't remember how much his workshop was. Maybe it was $40. And it was at his home. And at that point, I was doing polarity, energy work, balancing energy work. So I said, well, let me give you an energy session. So we did an exchange. He came here on the second floor at my center here, and we did that work. And from that point on, we've always had this beautiful relationship. He's a Conrad. We're Conrads, like myself and Dr. Africa is a Conrad. High level respect for each other's work. So over the years, we went into same locations. Many of us who was studying and growing in metaphysics and cultural healing and holistic health, we went up to what is called Aquarius on 125th and 7th Avenue. He was there also. I was there studying, and Dr. Moore and Kanye West and John Harris. From their retreats happened. We were all in the same mix, in the same community. Lloyd Strayhorn, Numbers and You. So we all grew up together. So that's more of a Conrad and us working together. And even during this time, he's so strong and resilient, and he's had businesses. He opened, closed restaurants. He had a restaurant here in Brooklyn, and I would have my Saturday meetings with the Sacred Rites of Passage. We get on we have a bus, and we're going out to either the ocean for spiritual work, or we're going to the botanical garden for herb work. And he had a live food restaurant and juice bar, and we would all park in front of his place and get our live juices and get our green wheatgrass, all the greens that he had there at his restaurant, and we supported him through the years.
Before you move on, where did the live vibe come from him? Was that a Dick Gregory thing? Where did he get this?
The live. Dick Greg wasn't 100% live. Dick Greg was to me, and I studied Dick Gregory's work, his book, Cooking with Mother Nature. So I would say that it was probably a combination. I think Dick Gregory inspired most of us through his writings and his civil rights work, his human justice work. Dick Gregory was inspired from Alvina Fulton, who inspired me. Dr. Alvina Fulton, she was a naturopath out from Chicago. And so when I went to see her, she told me about him being her student at the time, and as well as Muhammad Ali, so she was a big force, Dr. Alvina Fulton. She's now an ancestor.
How long did you work with her?
I didn't work with her. I seeked her out. I have family in Chicago. So I went to Chicago looking for her because I found out about her through Dick Gregory. And then at that time, she was in China studying. And then another time she had a little shop, a herb shop. Another time I came and she was there. And I was looking at her like some young people look at me. And I was in awe of her. And she had pictures of Dick Gregory. She had a picture of many of the greats. And I would like, oh my goodness. She knew who I was without knowing me, because she took me downstairs in her basement. It was very peculiar. She said, come here with me. And I went downstairs, and all her team, mature women, they had their white lab jackets on, and she had all these refrigerators throughout the basement of gallons and quarts of tonics for diabetes, because she would make everything. So you have these big quart size containers you would take home and drink it down. So she made their tea. Diabetes, high blood pressure. One thing she told me, she said, if they come for you, why would she tell me? If they come for you, just tell them you're making soup. Basically, you're feeding the people. Food is medicine. So I just took that on, and so she said, you're seeing something in me that I cannot see in myself yet. But she had the wisdom, and she was my inspiration as a result.
Did she ever speak about who inspired her?
She did not speak about who inspired her. But I would say that Imhotep inspired us all. That takes us all the way back to the first healers, the first doctor, holistic and allopathic, because he did surgery, but he also worked with herbs to heal us. So Imhotep. And then who was his mother? Who nursed him? The spirit of Mother As, the great mother.
All right, I want to jump back now to working with Aris, or being mentored by Aris. Mm-hmm. Your experience with Aris being your mentor.
No, a mentor is one who's your teacher.
All right.
He didn't mentor me in that way. We exchanged.
All right.
So that's why I said the word Conrad. Because when you're Conrad, you have a skill. Dr. Africa was right in this room. And we exchanged, we talked. I had him come and teach at my center, and he loved my work because I was teaching the women. And so he would observe me, and I would say, come in and give them a workshop. And, that's how the relationship was. So, yeah. But then there's another woman that inspired me in terms of African culture and beauty, and that Empress Okweke. We had the International Arts Festivals in Brooklyn. And this International Arts Festival, would be given at Boy Girls High School. But before that, it was at 10 Claver Place, right off of Fulton Street. And that was the beginning of us having our own schools, cultural schools, but we didn't send our children to public schools. I didn't send my children to public schools. I had cultural schools that were based on vegetarian lifestyle. They were not eating any flesh, and they were living natural. And there would be Baba Kwame and Mama Sunshine, and those would be their teachers, because it was a family during the daytime, where you're not just putting your children in school, that they have to be frisked and have high security. Security was cultural people, families, healing families. So your children were in a safe place. And so that was the beginning of, in the 60s when it all happened. And it was a Hurasasa, and that is where was the International Arts Festival. And I heard and saw Farasana's play there. And the song was created as a master plan. That became my theme song for 50 years. For 57, 1969, the Creator has a master plan. And the Creator has that. We're the plan. And we plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail. You have to have a plan. You have to have a strategy for wellness. And between my father and the Farasanas and the greats of our time, I said my plan is to liberate us, liberation to purification through self-transformation, healing.
Where does this resilience come from? You've been doing this a long time. As Jamaicans say, you've been trotting this thing for a long time. So where is that resilience coming, and why didn't you just throw in the towel and say, hey, I had enough?
Because I can't give up on the truth. The truth is healing. And I can't give up on my people. I'm clear why I came on the planet. If you don't know why you're here, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to go down some rabbit holes you may never get out of. But once you know why you're here and how you're supposed to serve, then you are charged. You're energized. I'm energized. One of our people say, I'm better. I'm getting better. I kept my legs. I didn't have to have a knee replacer, a hip replacer. I didn't have to have a heart pacer. I'm off of the medication for my pain. That is quite energizing, So I have a very love for my people. So after what we've been through, I went to Ghana to never come back here. And that was 20-some years ago, because I was on a radio show at Medgar Evers College. And I said, well, you can get rid of pain. You can use clay, you can use dark greens, you can use your kale, your chard, your turnips, juice that, goes right to the bones, the joints, gets out that pain, that inflammation. And I remember a doctor came on and said, you're a quack. And it was not like it was embraced back then. It wasn't embraced. And so I said, what? I'm in the wrong country. That's how I looked at it. I said, all this comes from the motherland, comes from Africa. So I'm going to leave now. And it took me a year to get myself together. And I did go to Ghana. And I packed everything. I packed everything I had. And I also had a client who came here. His name was Joe Minsa. And he was looking to get healed. And he loved the colonics, he loved the healing baths, he loved the food as medicine. So he was an artist. He's not here. He made a transition. So he wanted to open up a healing village in Ghana, and he wanted me to run it. So that's why I initially came. It did not happen. Other things had to happen. I had to come back here with my village from here.
How long did you live out there?
I was there for several months. But I was going to stay for my life. And my children, I was going to get everything set up so I could bring my children over, and we'd have had a different life. But I had to come back. And one of the things I had to write the book Sacred Woman. And I wrote it from the women that are here, right? My village of women, village sisters, mothers, daughters.